2004. And I'm really happy to see so many people in this meeting. I guess that's it.
What about you, Thea?
Elliot, I'm Thea. I've lived in Whitaker for almost 30 years now. And I've been on and off the WCC for, 25 years. I'm currently just working as the Parks and Safety Liaison. And it's been really busy lately. So I look forward to seeing everyone and sharing some things.
Nice. Whitaker Watch, what is your name?
I'm not sure if I'm considered Whitaker Watch. On my screen, it says you. I'm not on my own computer because my husband's on a Zoom call in our office. At any rate, if you're seeing a little hummingbird next to a flower, that's me. My name is not you. My name is Joanna. And I just joined you folks, I guess last year, just before you went on break. And I joined because I am a local ham and want to see what kind of support I can provide in that regard and otherwise. And in the meantime, I'm just curious about what's going on. I've been in this house in Eugene for pushing 50 years now. That's about it.
Nice. Thanks, Joanna.
Hi,
Steve.
hi, folks. I had some difficulty. I had to allow access for the microphone. This is Travis. I'm actually just sitting in and listening.
Cool. That works. Thanks for joining, Travis. Steve?
Hi, my name's Steen, and I have lived and worked in Whitaker since 1988. And I'm interested in knowing what's going on. I'm concerned about issues of resilience and survival in Whitaker. So I thought I'd come to this meeting. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. Okay. We're doing good on time. So 6:05 through 6:15. I have Julie talking about art in the park updates. Do you want to go ahead, Julie?
Yeah, I can totally do that. Still fooling with my camera, but I guess I'll just be blank screen for now. So as I hope you know, we have received an Art in the Parks grant for the summer concert series and other activities in Scobert Gardens Park. Thursday night, the 15th, will be our 5th and final music event between 7 and 8:30, and that's Samba Ja. Attendance has been amazing. We've had, as far as I can tell, top attendance at every show. We're averaging about 50 people every evening. I'm excited to see how many people will be there on Thursday for Samba Ja. We had about 80 last year. But the main thing I want to talk about is our 50th anniversary celebration, which is going to be Saturday, August 24th from noon to 7. Setup starts at 10:30 and cleanup will probably last until about 8. I would really like to see every board member and anybody else in the community who's interested come for at least a little while. You don't have to commit to 7 hours, but we're going to have a table for the WCC. And part of this is for the neighborhood to get to meet the board. So there's a sign-up form that I might be able to figure out how to share here, and I can definitely share it via email, that you can indicate what times you might be available. Other than talking to people at the WCC table, I'm going to have a bunch of yard games. So facilitating games, especially for kids. It's really fun. Last year we had a water balloon toss. We played red light, green light. We had an egg race where the kids carried the hard-boiled eggs in spoons. I need somebody to man a table that is going to give away prizes for the kids, like temporary tattoos and stickers, little water toys, and also to have sunscreen available, water to give away, that kind of thing. So that's going to be under a tent in the shade. So anyone who can come and spend a little time doing that would be fabulous. We're going to have 2 bands. Rob Tobias with Maya Love is going to do a Beatles tribute set from noon to 2. Then we're going to have speakers. I've got Senator James Manning. I have former Mayor Kitty Piercy. I have Sam Hahn, who I believe was chair of the WCC for many years. And I have Cindy Kohler from the city, who has worked for the city for 20 years, and she's the person we can thank for waiving all of our permit fees. Each of them is going to speak briefly about their experiences in the WIT, any history they might want to share, that kind of thing. And then from 5 to 7, we have Peter Wild, who does Americana. He's been a neighborhood person forever. I think he lives in Oak Ridge now. So if you're in town, I really hope you'll stop by. There's free ice cream from 12:30 to 4:30. And we have somebody coming to do free face painting and balloon animals. So more help, the better. Anybody have any questions?
Julie, what was the date? Is it August 15th, the last day?
Nope, August 15th is Samba Ja from 7 to 8:30. That's just music and also face painting and balloon animals. I'd love to see you, but I don't need volunteers there. August 24th, Saturday.
24th. Thank you.
Yes.
I missed the date. I was grabbing a
Yep.
piece of paper to take some notes.
So that's the day of the celebration, and more help, the better. And we're trying to represent that we've been serving the neighborhood for 50 years.
Nice. So in the chat, I just dropped the volunteer form
Thank
for
you.
August 24th. So please volunteer. There is kind of a morning and a evening shift. So starting up and then also breaking everything down at the end. So if you have a half day available, that'd be great. Yeah,
And
Joanna?
if you don't have half a day, please come for a little while. Sorry,
Yeah.
Joanna.
Don't be sorry. I need the details on where this is going to be, the hours. I don't know if I'm going to have access to the form because I'm on my tablet and it's woefully pathetic at showing me much on this thing.
Joanna, if you're
Okay.
interested, I have your email and I can just send it along after this meeting.
That would be perfect. Thank you. Will that include location and time?
Yeah, I can also pass along, yes, you can also speak to that, Julie.
So that's
Oh.
at Scobert Gardens Park, which is where the music has been going on. So they're at 4th and Blair. I forgot something else important also. The new Davis barbecue restaurant that's opened in the former Tiny Tavern space. They're holding a fundraiser for us. On that day, they will donate 15%, I believe, of their proceeds to the WCC. So it's at Scobert Gardens from noon to 7.
That's great. 15%, that's very generous.
Any other questions?
No?
All right, I think that's it.
Good. Okay. Then moving on, I think Thea, you're up next on the agenda. I'll let you transition. No worries. Oh, I think you're still muted, Thea. Sorry.
It would help if I unmute. As I shared, I've been Parks and Safety Liaison for quite a few years now. And that has basically entailed listening to neighbors, helping them understand if like a swing set is, we have some kids' swing sets are broken out here, and showing them where to report it on Park Watch. Sprinklers broken, how to report things like that. And then also safety issues. The issue that's been of late is WJ is a park that people have been calling and screaming at me about, that it just doesn't feel safe for the unhoused or the housed right now, both. I know that at the end of my street, every weekend right now, I've had groups coming and living in the kids' playground, and I'm out picking up needles out of the kids' playground again, which I haven't had to do for years. I tried to get cahoots out recently for a young woman. I was very concerned for her safety, and I was told they wouldn't come. They're no longer coming for safety issues. So I'm very concerned about that. I am meeting with Chief Skinner about that. I've been talking to city officials about that. I'm like, why will you not come? They're saying they're too busy. And I was concerned for her safety because she was there for 3 days, and we had men of all ages coming and going, and anyone who tried to stop and ask her if she needed anything, she immediately covered her face and didn't want to talk with anyone. The dispatch did not feel that warranted a safety issue. So I want to have some conversations around that with Chief Skinner to find out, am I doing something wrong? What's going on? When you call now, if it's not an active crime, they direct you to their website. You have to press a number and it goes to and you're supposed to report any issue on their website. I'm concerned for people in our neighborhood who do not have technology, or someone like my mother who is 83 years old and she's not going to be able to figure out a website. Heck, she can't even answer her cell phone half the time, let alone figure out a website. And I love her dearly, you know? So we've got some things going on like that. And so I've been working with the parks. I've been working with city staff. Maury Jacobs Park, they had all new staffing this year in all our parks. And if you notice, they're not watering the parks in Whitaker. They're not taking care of the parks in Whitaker. But if you drive around town, they're taking care of parks around town. Well, they have all new staff. And they forgot to turn the water on in Maury Jacobs this year. All the trees they planted were dying. The grass was dying. And so I called and said, what's going on? And they're like, oh my God, we didn't know the water wasn't on. So I'm pretty exhausted and pretty frustrated. I'm hearing lots of different messages from neighbors and from city staff. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I will be meeting with some people tomorrow. And we have a lot of bright people in Eugene to come up with some good ideas for solutions. But one of the things that I've seen happening is our regular folks that are our regular neighbors. They're our neighbors and they've lived in our neighborhood unhoused for years. And some of them don't want to go in. I've had conversations with them. They don't want to go in. They're being preyed upon by some of our drug dealers that are in the neighborhood right now. And one in particular has lost 3 of his bikes this summer. And he has to ride a 3-wheel bike. 3 of them have been stolen this summer. And he's back to a backpack. And this is a young man who stops at my door every once in a while and asks to borrow a broom and a dustpan because somebody's throwing trash all over the park. And I haven't gotten to it yet because I go out and clean the park. I'm part of the Adopt One block and I've officially adopted part of our park. And it concerns me. And then our food pantry is looking for a new place. It is the second food pantry that's ever been in Eugene. And they're ready to move it for a couple of reasons. One, we're getting people driving up that are taking all the food out of the food pantry all at once. And we've had 2 major accidents in front of the food pantry where they've smashed cars and needles have fallen out of the cars. They're really, really high and they're coming to get the food. And then the regular neighbors that are unhoused are not getting food. So the person that's been managing it has been saving food at their house so that when she sees them, she runs food out to them. So it's been stressful on this side of the tracks. And I know it's been a stressful summer for a lot of people. So I'm meeting with some people tomorrow to see what we can do. And we are looking to relocate that food pantry because it has created a lot of safety issues for this end of the neighborhood for a while. So if you know anybody that wants a food pantry, and we want to keep it in Whitaker, so reach out, please. And I'll give some more updates tomorrow after my meeting at the general meeting. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Thea. So with the safety payroll tax that was promised, more police resources, stuff like that, do you think those resources were added and they're just non-existent in the Whitaker? Or was it kind of a false promise and we need to then advocate for those resources? I'm kind of
We're going to
confused.
need to advocate harder. I have been the one that's been advocating. We almost lost Bruns 2 weeks ago. They almost shut their doors, just shut them down. Two of the owners have been assaulted. Their son has been assaulted. This is all within the last month. They're having numerous shoplifting issues. So I got a hold of the deputy chief at the time and said, you have to help. And, there have been some other things that I don't want to talk about publicly that have gone on that are just not appropriate. It's part of the reason I'm meeting with the chief. And we can't afford to lose them. They deliver groceries to people when someone's sick. They just will deliver your groceries and throw in that orange juice and that orange or that extra whatever you need, no charge. If I walk in and say I'm hungry, they feed you. They hand out water or Gatorade, depending upon the situation, a sandwich, some chicken, a piece of fruit, some chips, So if you're hungry and you walk in and say you're hungry, they're a resource for our community, and we can walk to our grocery store. Can you imagine if we all have to go up to River Road or down to 18th to get groceries? That's scary to me. So, and we have a couple businesses that are thinking of leaving, and they all hire local people. And we've had a couple businesses that have had employees punched in the face this summer. So it's been rough.
I think Doriandra's next for a question, and then Travis after her.
Thanks, Elliot. I just want to give some kind of balance or hope that we can have some help on the way. I met with the Eugene Mission today, Thea, and Mike Tardy over there had reached out to us and said, how can we help the Whitaker Community Council? And so we kind of think tanked today, and we will be starting with their starting on October 7th. And they will give us 2 hours every week of community support. And so my hope is to tie that to some of the work we need to do further down. But I'm thinking like a little suggestion box or our own way that people in the neighborhood could go onto the website, put a concern that's really bad. If there's an area that's not getting cleaned by the city, or some way that, a van from Eugene Mission can roll up with all of their geared up folks and their suits and their tools, and then they can work on that. So it's not the best solution, and it's not our city responding to the need, but I hope that in some way can be helpful.
So the city has agreed, if we want to do a Whitaker cleanup once a month, they have agreed to provide trash cans. I was trying not to step on what you're going to talk about next, Elliot. I was going to jump in there, but I was going to let you know. I have gotten them to agree to provide us trash cans if we want to do it once a month. They would even do it once a week. I am pushing for Clean Eugene, and that means trash. I am constantly pushing the message. It's not people sleeping. It is the trash and the drugs. I don't care if someone has a tent and it's nice and neat, but I don't want the drugs and I don't want the trash. It's not okay. I'm still pushing for the city to do a park host in some of our parks, like Lane County parks have park hosts. We have lots of people that cannot go inside for whatever reason. Provide them with a space to put their tent or provide them with a Conestoga hut and have them be a steward for that park. And that's what I have been pushing for 5 years now. So I'm getting a little traction there, and I am meeting with Burrito Brigade tomorrow because they reached out to us to see how we can work together. But I have been verbally assaulted trying to help my nephew clean his house which is it's in Jefferson West Side, but it's right as you come off the freeway there. And it's the group that hangs there, and that alleyway between 7th and 8th is really bad right now. And we know that as they move people, they're just going to bounce back and forth, and that's not good for anyone's health. So, and I'm pushing for the city to adopt one block, but it looks silly when they have to take it from another city. But at this point, we need to see if we can get people to step up and start helping clean our neighborhood. And Santa Pack is still willing to work with us on trash cans around the neighborhood. So Elliot, I'm going to turn that over to you, by the way. So
Cool. I might
Any other
let
questions?
Travis. Yeah, I'm gonna let Travis go, and then we'll switch over to me. Travis, what's your question?
Well, first of all, thank you, Thea, for everything you're doing for the neighborhood. I know a lot of our neighbors really appreciate you advocating for us. I have my main concern is the population that has taken over WJ. There today there was probably about 65 people there, and pretty much trashing, doing drugs, creating livability issues from the railroad tracks all the way to Fifth. The majority of this encampment, from what I've gathered from the police and the parks, are actually the folks that got pushed out of the Seneca camp off the railroad. So they're really not they're not Whitaker residents. They're people that have moved into the Whitaker, and a lot of their behaviors are concerning, to be polite. But my question is, at what point does the WCC formulate an opinion and present that opinion to the city to support our neighborhood, the livability, the safety, the health, all the issues that create a livable neighborhood? At what point does the WCC, after all of these years, my most of my life, I haven't seen the WCC get together and push the city, in regard to our livability, and that I find that to be the WCC's primary job, is to advocate for our neighborhood. So I am encouraging the WCC to do so, and I wonder why that hasn't happened. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose I can talk about Travis's question here. I've noticed that too, as a new board member, that the WCC avoids taking heavy positions in what could be political or very divisive. I think there's a compromise that can be made where the board votes on a position, gathers evidence for that position, and then communicates that position and holds it very firmly. That hasn't been happening, and I've noticed that as well. I'm pretty sure that's going to be changing soon as we have more board meetings, and we're going to, in the past, since April, I feel like a lot of our board meetings, we've had a lot of one-to-many conversations where we have guest speakers come in, communicate what's going on with our new charter, things like that. But we haven't been able to have long conversations about what positions the WCC should hold and how we should communicate that. So that's definitely changing, and we're going to be working on that. So yeah, I hear you, Travis. I feel the same way. The WCC should be kind of the voice of the people and present it as a unified front, and that's how we get things done and tackle our top priorities. So I'm going to talk about a priority of mine that I'm looking to this is more of a discussion, so feel free to bring this up. I started an organization called Citizen Cleaners, and I'm currently pending funding for trash cans that can be deployed in the neighborhood. And I want to hear about lessons learned. We've done this before, I believe, where we've brought trash cans publicly in the neighborhood and serviced them. And I've heard they've been stolen, trashed, and they didn't last very long. So I want to hear what you residents have to think about that, and what lessons could be learned, and how we could do this in a way that lasts and it's not just a pilot project that dies and runs out of funding. So, Steen, do you have anything I should know when pursuing this?
I did not want to interrupt you talking about picking up trash. I just had a comment about parks for when that can fit in. So when you can fit me in, that's great.
Okay, we'll keep going then. Thea, do you have any ideas? So Santa Pack has been interested.
Yes.
What
So I've been
projects?
trying to get trash cans into our neighborhood because LTD pulled their trash cans out because people go through them and spread trash. So LTG just keeps ripping trash cans out, and we have less availability of trash cans. Believe when Chris Gadsby was chair, it was Chris Gadsby, Brad Foster, and myself were able to get porta potties and trash cans because we really wanted bathrooms. We really wanted to try it. Everybody has to go. We all have to go, but we don't acknowledge it in the United States. We just don't acknowledge it. So we put porta potties and trash cans around. And Chris, Brad, and I would go daily. We would take turns going to the different ones saying, you may not sleep in them. You may not have sex in them. We got bucks to put needle boxes in them. So you were allowed to use your needles, use the needle box, don't put it in the porta potty. Okay. And so we would go around and tell people, you may not camp next to it. You may not do these behaviors. Bruns was the first one to have their porta potty. They were the last one. And trash can. They were the last one before it had to be removed. Brad ended up with knee surgery. Chris got a job, and my husband ended up in the hospital. So we were not able to go daily. And it took us going daily. We literally went daily to each one of these sites and said, can't have this behavior here. We also had 2 large dumpsters at the parking lot that we used to rent for businesses. And eventually the dumpsters had to have the lids that have the little opening, because if they had the big opening, residents of Eugene, not necessarily Whitaker, of Eugene, started putting mattresses, tires, all these things that they didn't want to pay for to go in there. And then we had people that were having issues of some kind, don't know what kind, but they would take all the trash out and anything shiny. And so that became an issue. So we got little tops on those. Okay. And that helped keep the trash cans, the trash from coming out. So I reached out to Santa Pack a little over a year ago and said, can we start getting some trash cans back on our streets? They did a program in Austin, Texas. I will get your email, Elliot, or you can email me and I will send you. And they said they will work on it. They said they had to go through the city because the city has the trash policies. But I have the ear of the city. And I was told today I am like a bulldog or the lizard that bites the head off of things, or it still keeps the things in its jaws when it's had the head knocked off. They said you are very persistent, but very polite, and we're willing to listen to you. I think we can get trash cans in our neighborhood. And we need them. We need them down by 4th by Scobert Gardens, down by Bruns. We need them down by, we don't need them in the parks. The parks are okay. But we could use them on a few of our streets, and maybe, and I've had businesses who are saying they're willing to commit. Because Grizzlies tried to put a trash can out, but it just became a huge mess for the neighborhood because people were filling through them. So I'm excited you want to start a program, Elliot, because we really need to do something. We need to be an example for our city. We have to work together.
Yeah.
But
Travis,
they do create issues, Elliot.
Yeah, Travis, what are your thoughts?
My thought is that maybe to get some data, some current data within the last year or two. Like, I don't know if Austin's program started anytime recently. I don't know what their street drug issues are, but from what I've gathered in the many documentations I've done over the past 4 years, the drugs that people are taking right now have some weird component to them that turns people into trash pandas. It's like I don't know what they're digging for. Right? They're not digging for food. They rummage through trash. They spread it around. They smush it into the ground. They pour containers out. I'm going to caution that with the crisis as it is on our streets of the Whitaker, I guarantee you it will not just be a once a day, got to go clean up the little scene and tidy it up. It's going to be a really big deal to have trash cans that are available to the public. I am not exactly sure what the solution is. I know right now the trash never ceases to end, and a lot of the trash that's accumulating is coming out of trash cans or being stolen off of neighbors' porches. A lot of the things that you find broken around the streets. I don't think it'll work. I mean, that's just looking at what the problem is right now, and whatever these drugs people are taking, it makes them want to dig through trash. I think it's gonna be a disaster. That's my point of view.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Travis. I live in a townhouse complex and we have shared dumpsters that are unlocked. And I'll come out one day and half our dumpsters on the concrete slab, just strewn around, smushed everywhere. I see what you're saying. Yeah, so the only way we could do that would be to have like a locking top where it's easy to put stuff in, hard to get stuff out. And then you think, okay, what about deposits? And so my idea would have Ashland, Oregon did this really well. I feel like they had trash cans and then a small basket attached to the trash can on the side labeled cans and deposits, and people would throw away their trash and then put the deposit in there, and it would just, people would go about downtown and grab the deposits out of the basket, and that seemed to work. That is definitely a risk to all this, is we'll come to clean out the trash can and it's just litter all over the street, and then we're liable for that and we're to blame for that. So that's a risk. We could figure out how to mitigate that or deal with it when we encounter it and just realize it might be a known issue, but that's definitely an issue. Doriandra, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just looking up the kind that they put in state parks. I just put the kind I'm thinking about in the chat there. I wonder if we should go after some kind of grant that could, I mean, I can't believe how expensive they are, but like you were just saying, it's funny, it's bear resistant, but that might be an option.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid, trash cans are so incredibly expensive. They can range from $600 all the way up to $2,000. I'm currently targeting a solution that's like $200 per trash can, and that's a pretty good solution.
Mm-hmm.
And that way we can distribute more so that it's not one trash can taxed to the max. It gets distributed really well, block by block. But that's to come when we put together budgets, and I can definitely refer to this committee when we're at that stage. Yeah, it's so difficult to have anything commercial installed anywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you, Dorianda, you can continue.
Yeah, one other thing I just remembered, we have that metal fabricator that built us the
hand sanitizer stands.
Well, no, they're gosh, the name is evading me. They're beautiful. They are touchless sinks, and you just pump it with your foot, and it was a fabricated piece that came up, and it was a hand washing station. We placed one at Skinner Barn. We put them at the safe sleep sites for folks, and so that fabricator might have an idea if we wanted to reach out to him to make something.
Yeah, we could try and have these custom made in the neighborhood. Shipping and buying these commercially are already that expensive. We might be able to get a in-neighborhood fabricator that when they have slow weeks will make us, equipment that might be lower margin when they just need work for their shop.
That's a great, yeah, he was great to work with and did really quality work. So we can connect each other to that if you need.
Yeah. Yeah, Thea.
So I do think you can also get the city to help on this, because I told them that they've been treating Whitaker like their ugly little stepsister, and we are not Cinderella. We are a vibrant part of the city, and they know the issue. And so I think we can. Ninkasi also has some metal workers there, but there are trash cans that you can get that have basically a lid. I've seen the trash cans you're talking about as well. And I know when you have the receptacles on the outside, that really helps. And it keeps someone from having to dig through the trash can. I mean, you shouldn't have to for recyclables. So
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea. We have to try something. This not working together and not doing anything and just you try it, it doesn't work. We were successful for almost 9 months with the porta potties and trash cans before they had to go. And the third time they lit the one at Bruns on fire, that was when Tom and Tad said, we can't do this anymore.
That makes sense.
It's gonna catch the store on fire. And that's the only reason it got pulled, is because it was gonna catch the store on fire. So
I think
nice idea.
What's easy access for funds could be the neighborhood matching grant. The WCC hasn't submitted a grant for a few years. I think I looked at the records, so I think we're definitely due. So we can match volunteer hours at an hourly rate against the cost of purchasing equipment and stuff like that. So as long as we propose a project with a long enough time frame that we can get a lot of volunteer hours in, we can definitely get matching funds for $5,000 and deploy that. What would you think, Thea?
I have enough volunteer hours that will cover it right now.
Yeah. So that's a small pool that it could be quickly tapped for funds if we want to get this started. And then once we kind of show that we're doing it, people will say, okay, I'll sponsor a trash can on my block. I'll sponsor. And we could kind of get a ball rolling. My goal is to spread them out basically at every 2 per block at least would be enough to then actually be manageable as we do the rounds and collect trash. Because otherwise they'll overflow in a day and then they've lost their value. Yeah. So let's see. All right. We can talk about this again. This is a great discussion. We can think about it more. If anybody has additional ideas, feel free to message me. Yeah, Travis.
Sorry, just one thing about that idea. I do think that if there is going to be a trash can program, that it needs to be an opt-in program. That way, if there is a renter or a business or a homeowner that does not want a trash can in front of their residence, their property, they don't have to have one in front of their property.
Sure, I think that's fair. Yeah, especially at the start, it's fair to be stepped like, hey, I don't want it. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, that's my time. I'll respect the schedule. Doriandra, I think you're up if you want to talk about some new grants we have.
Sure, Elliot. Did you want to let Steen? I can give some time up. I think.
Oh, yeah. Steve, do you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay, I think Steen's good, right? If I'm reading body language.
Yes, my hand's up.
Okay, go for it.
Thanks, Doriandra. Thea, I wanted to say thank you for being persistent about getting water on in the parks. I know that we were really worried about Scobert Park. We didn't realize it was happening all over the place. So it's great to actually see water happening. And I wanted to just put a bug in the ears of folks who are on this committee, since it has to do with resilience and survival in our neighborhood. I know I'm a one-trick pony, but if concrete goes in at Scobert Park in the front and those tree roots get cut, those street trees are going to die. There's just no question about it. If you walk on the grass, you can see their roots. And if all those roots go away, those trees are going to perish. One of the things I've been doing when I've been walking my dogs around the neighborhood is I'm starting to document trees I see everywhere in our neighborhood that are dying. And I think since we are in an urban heat island, it would be really important for this particular committee to talk about how we can actually deal with the issue of maintaining a canopy for the future. It's a serious issue. If we lose more of those trees in the park, then I don't know how the market could possibly be there anymore, or how anybody could use the park. When we're talking about unhoused people and people who maybe don't have air conditioning, being under a tree is one of the coolest places that you can find. So we really need to talk about making sure that we have shade in our neighborhood and that we find ways to plant things now for the future. It's frightening, honestly, when I walk around this neighborhood and I see all the trees suffering, the big leaf maples, especially, it's terrible. We have to protect what we have for trees and plant more. So I'm just going to put that out there. That's my resilience comment for tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steen, for commenting and kind of speaking to that. Dia, do you wanna comment?
Yeah, so Steen, just before the first COVID shutdown, we had Friends of Trees come to the WCC meeting, and we were talking about getting some young trees to start planting to replace the old ones that were getting older, like the rest of us. And it would be awesome. I think the Health and Safety Committee could reach out, or WCC in general, reach out to Friends of Trees, because they're willing to come in. I know they came in on North Grand and planted trees. So that might be a nice way to bring them back into the neighborhood to get more trees. And they give you the tree, they come water them, they help you learn how to take care of them. So maybe we could, you could look into that, because Friends of Trees are really great.
Yeah, as a committee, we could reach out to Friends of Trees. And Steen, I welcome your guidance on where some potential trees could maybe go to supplement and replace the ones near the park or in the park, and your recommendation there. And we can't just go plant trees in the park, but if we bring good recommendations and say, hey, as a neighborhood, we want to do this to our park, I'm sure that would work. Travis, did you also have a comment?
No, I put my hand down.
Oh, appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna let Doriandra speak. All you.
Okay, thanks. And I do want to say, yeah, Friends of Trees was really eager to partner with our group. They came to our recent disaster resiliency event and did a talk about heat and landscaping and trees, health of trees. It was really, really great. So yeah, I met with them after, and they were really eager to partner in any way they could. So we should start that ball rolling. Jeff Lanza is the plant manager. I can't remember his title, but he's the guy that kind of orchestrates like what a group could be given to work with, and they could help map it. Oh, I am so sorry. That was loud. So yeah, that's such a great idea. Okay, let's hop on to the AARP grant. This committee was super helpful when we last met in June, I guess. It seems like forever ago. And really talking through the pluses and the minuses about these internet satellite hubs. We were really talking about the problems inherent with having them in the hands of private individuals or houses, and then businesses. Each comes with a conundrum of issues. A homeowner suddenly kind of has an issue with safety perhaps, or having to open up their home to strangers. And then the businesses, of course, they move, they change. And so with that input, I started talking to Emerald Broadband and suggested that we put them in our parks, which they were totally amenable to. So the progress on that so far is we have one dedicated plan for an e-web pole in Scobert Gardens. So there'll be a fiber optic hub there that will be housed in a like a doghouse, they call it, that will have a battery possible for like 5 to 7 days if the city shuts down power. So people can walk there, log on with special password, and then have access to what they need to do. The other, there was issues with getting the other two parks taken care of, Sladden Park and Washington Jefferson, because of ownership issues, a fight between CenturyLink and the small company Emerald, and so on and so forth. So the other location that we're thrilled to partner with us is Eugene Mission. Kind of covers the northern side. It's still, I wish it was Sladden Park, but that's kind of an easy fix, so that folks could either go to Scobert Gardens or they could just go to basically the corner of First and Blair, so they don't really have to go all the way down to the Mission, but those will be big range internet sections for people. So that's my progress on that grant. I think that the third, we'll just do our deliverable is 3 new hubs that would facilitate digital connectivity in emergencies. So the third will probably be the satellite roam. Elliot kind of helped think tank that, like, okay, well, do we get the roam one or the one that's fixed? But if we do the roam, it can move with us if we get a building. And so it'd probably be entrusted with a board member, preferably somebody on the Washington Jefferson side. So that's the update for those. Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah. So with this grant, we're supposed to supply also satellite. So we're thinking of using Starlink, and that can be taken down and deployed anywhere. It doesn't need any fixed connection point. So if we find that in a disaster, everybody's grouping up somewhere, we can quickly deploy that and have internet. So that's a useful tool. And then also having pole mounted Wi-Fi routers, basically with battery backups, is super great. So yeah, it's a mixed approach. And yeah, Travis.
Hi, I just this is kind of a new. I haven't been keeping up on this idea. Is this some sort of emergency internet access for a disaster only? So it gets turned on or deployed during whatever would be deemed an emergency, or is it like a full-time community Wi-Fi hotspot?
So it is full-time, but meant to be deployed in emergency. Like, we can't just switch it on and off. So we will have it ready to go and subscribed and ready. It's basically digital connectivity for seniors is the primary audience for this AARP grant. So giving seniors battery backups, and then also having available access to the internet in kind of a down zone or in a disaster where everybody can still communicate. That's the point of the grant.
What I'm trying to get at is it going to be a place where anyone can pull over and sign on and use the internet whenever is it a public? Okay. Thanks.
We decided against that.
Yeah, we decided that. We don't want to just create constant hubs.
Free hotspots.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to encourage, drug deals in the parks or any of that stuff. So this is just a time sensitive thing where the internet gets turned on and then people can log in, and then, like we're thinking along the calendar lines of a declared emergency disaster where the city, goes into that designation, and then the provider would shut it off. So
is this something they can attach to an eWeb. Is eWeb amenable to uh, letting you use an already used pole?
Yes, so I've been working with Emerald, they're working with eWeb, and then I'm working with the city to get the permissions to go on these poles. So we have our poles picked out, and the one at Scoburg Gardens is behind the back fence. And these things will be high enough up that they should be tamper-proof.
Oh,
Was that,
thanks. Yeah, I was just thinking like Railroad Boulevard has all of those huge electric poles.
Mhm.
Uh, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've had a lot of trouble trying to get permissions for these places, and some of that has to do with the monopoly that like CenturyLink has over areas in the Whitaker. And that's why we're going with the smaller company, Emerald, because they are a small, cool company. So, and they'll be donating the time that the internet is on, so we will not have a monthly issue or payment. We're just going to use the grant to pay for these hubs to go up into place, and then they will do an in-kind donation of the service when we want it turned on. Okay, let's see.
I think Jen had a question.
Oh, yeah.
I was just wondering what the range was on them, and if there would maybe be a way to offer them to seniors that might live in range, if it is going to be on all the time. If it's not, then
Yeah, so I've heard different quotes on the range, but you can imagine this just being a very efficient Wi-Fi router. So you're probably looking at line of sight 100 meters to 300 meters, depending on how powerful it is. Yeah, that's what I think that answer is. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. It doesn't serve folks that maybe are homebound or, have mobility issues getting to the location. But I think our hope as a committee is that with enough neighbors being able to get information and bring it back to other neighbors, that may really be helpful. So, okay. The other thing that's really neat, Elliot, in our last meeting kind of helped us or found some great options for these backup cell phone chargers. So we went with the one that you found, Elliot, that has the flashlight. And so we have 50 of these. We were able to do it on Amazon Prime Day. Amazon, but it was the best use of our money. So I'm building like a little manual, I guess you'd say, it will following kind of learning how to use it. And then we'll have our new graphic artist person create a little info piece that comes with it. It'll just kind of be part of the unit. And then my plan is to get a kind of pre-registration going for these because there's only 50 and they'll be eligible for low-income people over 50. So I figure the best way to do it is to get people excited about them, pre-register, and then they would have a chance to pick them up at a date before our big event, which is dated for October 5th at the Campbell Senior Center. We can have, an opportunity for people to pick them up there or else at a date before that at the Whitaker Community Market. So we'll have ample time for, opportunities for people to pick them up. So that'll be the second part of that deliverable. Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So the educational event on, I think the agenda says October 10th, just
Yes.
October 10th. It's an educational session basically about how to use these things. What are these Wi-Fi hubs in emergency? Why should I care? How do I access them? So we'll go through all that, do like a mock one in the building where we'll connect and kind of demonstrate the value of the service we're providing. And yeah.
Yes. Perfect. And then we'll also be kind of modeling it on our previous disaster resiliency events. So I'll try to find some neat partners again, probably have Friends of Trees back, and there'll be group speakers that can talk about disaster preparedness. And Jen's awesome idea of our cook-off, the recipes for disaster. It was so much fun at the November 11th event that I think I'm sorry, that was May 11th, forgive me. Yeah, the one before was November 11th. So I reserved the part of the Campbell Center that has that giant industrial kitchen attached to it. So I thought that we could probably launch that again, which was really fun. And then this time have contestants in the kitchen. So it'll be a really fun day. We're kind of just branching the 3 grants that are in place for emergency resiliency: the OHA Original Disaster Resiliency, the AARP, which is enhancing digital connectivity. We'll also be doing the tail end of our small garden bucket program. So we'll also be having all those things co-located in one event is the rough plan. So any input or ideas from y'all about that event would be great. Should be really fun. Oh, it looks like Julie has a hand up.
Yeah, I want to double check that date. It's Saturday, October 5th, correct? Not Thursday, October 10th? Or do I have that wrong?
Let's see. Have I said both iterations? I apologize.
Well, the agenda says the 10th. I thought we talked about Saturday the 5th. I just want to make sure I have it correct.
Yeah, the agenda might just have a typo. So
Sure.
don't use
Exactly.
it as a source of truth.
Yes, it does. I'm sorry about that. It
It's
is
okay.
Saturday, October 5th at the Campbell Senior Center from 11 to 3.
Awesome. No problem at all. I just wanted to make sure that I had the right thing written in my calendar. Thanks.
So we'll have an event page for that built pretty soon, and we'll get it on our website and start making some plans. So luckily we have some time, but we just needed to get it reserved and on the calendar because those inside places seem harder to get than our normal location. So Thea.
Got to turn my mic on. So do you need help getting a hold of fire, EPD? Do you need those contacts again? Do you need me to reach out?
You were instrumental in making that happen, so I would be so grateful if you did again.
Do you need any city people?
You
Do you need
know,
like parks there or?
no, I think, it is an indoor space. And it's going to be a little bit different. I figured maybe Julie and I could go look at it together and or anybody would like to tour it. The city holds their neighborhood association groups in there, so I've been in it. It's pretty big, but I
It's a
think
beautiful space.
yeah, it's beautiful. I think the problems we kind of worry about at Washington Jefferson Park of filling a space are now going to be changed to fitting in a space. So
Are they allowing you to use the parking lot at all? So like if they want to bring fire trucks and
yes,
fun things for the kids with EPD?
yeah, I'm sure they'd be amenable, and I will start. I just haven't had any time to start the planning on this, but we've held the date, but that would be fabulous if you could pull those in because.
Okay, why don't you touch base with me so I get all the correct details before I send out an email?
Sure, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it might be less of an issue at the Campbell Center, but if there's a way to get one of those like flappy windsock people things or something silly, because I think some people avoided the event because they saw police cars with their lights on down there,
Right.
and it looked like there was. And not everyone, I know some people did not participate in the park survey because there were police cars idling. So I think that just making I think it's great. I personally love fire trucks. But trying to give an indicator of making sure that people know that it's not, no one's getting in trouble, that it's actually fun and something to check out might be a good
idea. Okay.
I have talked to EPD about their behavior in the park, but I'm also bringing it up with the big boss on Friday. I have a long laundry list with him.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been we had a time on Sunday, and it's really hard. You call cahoots and you can't call cahoots because they're not working, and then they don't even send the police, and then they finally do, and it's just kind of a whole mess out there. And so yeah, I appreciate your intervention, Thea, and you are definitely a ferocious contender, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, Thea, I just wanted to add too, off topic, but I had a situation in my neighborhood that I needed to call, like it was really urgent, needed to call the police, and somebody acting really violent and hit that same ridiculous phone tree thing. Used to just be able to call and there'd be a human, and now in my frazzled and anxious state I was about the incident happening, I couldn't have possibly gone through that ridiculous phone tree and then reported it, and it was really a huge blow, thinking that, like you said, people like your mom and other people with technological things could even navigate that system. So,
and there's only ever one dispatcher on duty anyway. I mean, it's not like the call actually gets routed. You speak to someone and then they just verify if you want non-emergency. Sorry to cut in line, Elliot, but I spent 4 hours on the phone with folks on Sunday during the market because someone was in crisis and we couldn't get help.
I've never encountered a phone tree. Was it 911? And then, so you call, you say what the issue is, and then they route you through the phone tree? Because that sounds awful.
it's awful.
Yeah.
That is my question. Were these 911 calls? Because I would like to speak to you personally before Friday, because I want to bring these issues up with the man that's in charge of these. And I know we have several dispatchers. I also know there are lots of brand new dispatchers because I've been reaching out to their supervisor. So if we could speak privately and not take up the group's time, I would like to have those incidents so I can go over it with him and say, these are things that are not okay on your watch. So if you guys wouldn't mind reaching out, that would be awesome.
Jen, do you have Thea's contact? Good.
She does.
Great. Okay. Great. Thank you. We appreciate you, Thea. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions about the AARP process and grant and event? We've got a lot to do.
No, should we just watch out for a volunteer sign-up form in our inbox, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I will start getting that together, and I'm having our new person, graphic artist, communications person, begin the assets, I guess we could call them. So yeah, we'll look for that coming up online. Okay, let's move to the CHIP grant, which is the Healthier Together Oregon. This was the small gardening program, and we finished up the cycle there at the Whitaker Community Market. We did several tables, booths there, and we were really grateful for you guys to host us, Jen. Thank you. It was a great turnout. In total, we passed out over 180 veggies, little plants of all sizes, and everything, bell peppers to celery to kale, just the whole plethora of fabulous food was out. So multiple bags of soil from Backyard Farmer. We were able to give people a little gift certificate to go pick up their own big giant sack of the organic filthy rich soil, which was great. And that's if they already had little bucket gardens or they didn't want to haul away a giant bucket from our space. We had the buckets there that Thea so passionately drilled all the holes in the bottom. Thank you. So we were just shoveling dirt in and then letting kids and families and all sorts of people pick out what their plants. So some did the planting of them on site. Others took the whole little kit and caboodle home and assembled it elsewhere. So really just adorable project. And again, thank you to Thea for starting that great idea. And she built the curriculum sheets, which we had available on the buckets for people to kind of read through the steps. And we have that curriculum. We need to, just made me realize we've got to get that updated on the website. We've been doing a lot of neat changes on the website to make it simpler, more clear in terms of where things line up. So now all of our grant programs are under the impact tab. And so each of the grants has its own little snapshot, and then you can click on a link and go in deeper. So you just made me remember I'm going to put all of Thea's curriculum in that small bucket section. Okay. Yeah, great little program. It's really kind of went faster than I hoped, and that's basically because of the cycle that, you know, the OHA started the grant a bit late, and so we lost, I think, a month and a half at the top. So we were all chatting at the last June meeting about maybe transitioning now from bucket gardening now to compost in bucket kind of theory. So I'll be looking into that. We'll probably be able to get another donation from Hummingbird Wholesale of their used big tahini buckets. And then Elliot found a really cool link about the worm composting. So I'll probably be chatting with Friends of Trees a little bit about that too. And we'll make that our last push of this particular grant. Go ahead, Jen.
Lane County waste production has 7,000 tons
Ooh,
of the Love Food Not Waste compost to give
okay.
away starting
Nice.
this. So if there's any desire for that, I know a gal. And I think it would be nice if, you know, we have an opportunity, maybe we can connect at one of the events that if people, if there's something in the spring at the time when people are kind of amending their beds, or even this fall, where we can have them come in and people can fill up a truck of compost for free. But yeah, if you want to do making compost, that's different. But if you just want lots of free compost, the county. But
Yeah, that's amazing. The grant, this one ends in December. So yeah, maybe let's chat about that offline, and maybe that might be really amazing to just have one big, you just come pick it up and take it away. Yeah, that's might be easier for some people than having to do their own. But we just figured, like, through the winter months, you know, as we move into winter, it could be something you start to do in your home with the supplies that we would give out, and then
Great.
be ready next spring. So yeah, my hope is that this turns into a fundable resource and is refunded, because it was so successful on our end, and then other parts of the state. It may be something that we'll be ready to do in spring, but closer to spring instead of starting in summer. So go ahead, Thea.
You can also do winter gardens in your buckets. I grow lettuce year round. I sometimes grow peas. So those are other things that if you need to, you can do that as well.
That's a good idea too.
Spinach is great in the winter.
What do you
That's
think?
better.
Would you think we'd be better served to just stay on track with that and continue providing the starts rather than shift gears into composting?
You might be able to just add it. Depends on what kind of funding and time everyone has. So
Okay.
we can talk offline.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. All right, let's hop into it. Well, any more questions about the bucket grant?
I have a thing semi-related. That survey I sent you today is the
Yes.
community health assessment for the county that helps determine the funding priorities of the CHIPs and the CHAWs and all of that stuff. And so I figured, since this is a good group, we're doing partner surveys to inform the community health assessment that determines these funding priorities around things like food security and housing. And so if there's another organization that maybe I haven't thought of to send that to, and anyone wants or thinks of someone who would maybe want to be involved with the community health assessment, you can either email it to me, but it's a way to sort of preload potential funding sources for the next 5 years for projects such like this by overemphasizing or just emphasizing their importance, because they are important.
They are. Thank you for sending it. I did it while I was eating dinner tonight. So
I know.
I
Good
got
job.
it. Yeah, I got it done. And I figured the little gift certificate they'll send out we'll use to take our board to beers or something. So yeah, but yeah, I would suggest maybe sending it to Cheryl at Eugene Mission, or I don't know if there's a couple other folks like that that could help. So, okay, so we'll connect. Perfect. Great. Okay, let's move on to this big grant. We have a new huge grant. This is the Healthy Homes grant. This is part of a legislation that was enacted in 2021 that wanted to move housing into safer places. So essentially, we'll be doing some pretty big work. This is going to be a game changer in terms of our expansion of this committee, board activity. It's a lot. Essentially, this groundbreaking legislation is working to achieve healthy home standards for low income households having below the 80% AMI, and also communities impacted by environmental justice factors. So I think that Whitaker is a really good fit for this grant because we've got probably more than half of the houses are older than 40 years old. So this grant will be able to give us the funds to repair dwellings to address climate and environmental hazards. It will ensure accessible homes for disabled residents, and we'll be able to make repairs to get things up to the standard. So, and what I mean by repairs, it's quite a long list, but it's been split into sections by what the grant was willing to do for us. So I asked for the 750,000, which was the full amount, and provided a work plan to fix 80 houses. And the way that that lays out, it's, for instance, 20 of them will receive new HVAC systems, the mini splits that are very energy efficient, and another 20 will receive all ADA upgrades, so new handbars, uh, wheelchair ramps, wider doorways. So it's split like this into categories that goes on down. The next 20 houses will have remediation of mold and allergen issues. Then another 20 will receive, or now I've lost track of the numbers, but then the last grouping would have all new windows and doors and proper insulation so that you can address, the kind of constant issues that we're having with smoke and wildfire. So the work plan I have is going to allow a lot of expansion with our community in terms of providing Whitaker contractors with this work. I've got them kind of categorized into two groups. One group will do half of the style of repairs and the other half. I've also worked today with Eugene Mission to empower their life change participants, their clients. So we've got a tentative plan to start October 7th, where they'll send a group of folks out to be at the house to help prepare the homeowners for the changes coming. I just had some recent small work in my house done, and I was blindsided by how much I had to do to get ready to let them in, to fix this, to pull that out. And so this will be a really neat chance for folks in the life change program to be able to come and help, move all the furniture off the floors that need to be ripped out to deal with the mold type of thing. Or they'll come and they can cut the blackberries away from a window that needs to be replaced type of thing. So I feel like this is a really good partnership with them. And it also will help us be very clear and accurate fiduciaries of this large amount of money, because contracting is super expensive. And so we just want our contractors to be able to come in and do the work without having to hit the issues that sometimes would slow them down. Go ahead, Travis.
I'm sorry if I don't know if I was spacing out. Who is this for? Is this for older residents to apply to the WCC for some sort of funding to do things like weatherization or uh, building projects? How do you give the money out? Who do you give the money to?
Sure. Okay. The way it'll work is this. An applicant will go through a rubric system and an application that will come to us. And this will determine that their main eligibility is that they would need to be 80% AMI or under. So these are very low income residents that need support. And from there, once they're eligible, WCC will send a certified contractor to the location. They'll do the assessment. Then the work plan will begin once we've used our Eugene Mission volunteers to prepare the home. And at the completion of the work, then the contractor will bill the WCC, who are the grantor awardee.
So these are for homeowners that are below 80% AMI.
And they are for renters who are below 80% AMI. And so yep. So it immediately triggers probably a concern, which we've already addressed in our previous Housing is Healthcare. The thought that, well, if we go in and make repairs on, let's be frank, a slum situation that a landlord who has funds but is not willing to make them for the low income tenant, what incentivizes that landlord to keep the low income tenant in the home, right? So we've kind of been through this already with the Housing is Healthcare grant, and Thea was just tirelessly working with me on this. So we would develop these, very complex conversations with the landowners, and there will be certain memorandum of understanding, kind of MOUs that we can get some guidance from the state of Oregon that will stop that potential issue. So the goal is to repair these houses for the renters with the agreement that they will not be moved out and the rent raised.
Excellent. Yeah, that was one of my questions. The other thing I would like to say about the AMI, I've been following the city's affordable housing, and there's even city councilors that don't quite understand the difference between lowercase affordable housing and uppercase capital A affordable housing. 80% AMI are not low income people. I just want you to know that 80% AMI, the adjusted median income of the city of Eugene is over $50,000. So there are carpenters out there that are making $45,000 that would qualify. It's not 80% AMI is not a low income as it were. It's not a capital A affordable. 80% AMI is basically a lot of us. Just so you know that. I wouldn't call them low income at 80% AMI.
I do understand, and I do know that, and I'm just reiterating the language of the grant because specificity in that conversation is important. But what you're talking about is an incredible plus because this is going to be able to serve a lot of people that are, for our purposes, we'll call them middle class or almost upper class, because I agree with you, Travis. But
yeah, it's amazing. You're going to be able to help people that own their homes, people that might be hopefully in their, upper 50s, 60s, 70s that maybe have never made more than $45,000 their whole life, and they're buying their house or they own their house. So.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really exciting. Quite a push. So this is going to be going on all over the state of Oregon, and we were really lucky to have the award given to us. So
yeah, these programs, like I got a free heat pump from eWeb when my house burned down and underinsured to rebuild it, and so it is life changing. It is the only reason why I'm not having an asthma attack and overheated and a miserable cranky pants right now. And so I think it's wonderful that it's not just for ultra low income, and recognizing that people who are making $45,000 a year are not going to have that $4,000 to invest in something like this. And if you are suddenly hit with a disability and need to make adjustments, that you may not be in a financial position to put in that ramp. So good job. Congratulations. This is very, very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good. And yeah, you're so right. I mean, I think many of us are just simply one car wreck or one disability or one job loss away from being part of this unhoused tide. And I think that this will really push that in the opposite direction, because if we can keep people in houses, what we did with our housing is healthcare was so relative. And that's really the gist of all of this, is that housing is healthcare. If we can start right there, you're able to keep jobs, work on issues, have your family. So it's really exciting. So go ahead, Thea.
So you've been accepted, you've gotten this grant.
Yes.
That's my first part. Congratulations. Nice work,
Thank
because
you.
that
Thank
was flipping hard. Excellent job, Dorian.
Thank you.
Second part, are you going to put in with the contractors a penalty clause? Because as this goes out to the realm of contractors, they sometimes disappear and they
Mhm.
manage lots of jobs at the same time. So I'm just saying, cautiously build in, we expect this done by a certain date. Heating companies, they automatically go in and do stuff, and window companies can go in, but sometimes they disappear. So just be thinking about that as you move forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I when I started writing the grant, I picked out two businesses. One is in the Whitaker, it's Wedge Contracting, it's David Hurd, and then another one, David Derricks, who's not in the Whitaker but loves it and shops down there all the time. So I sat down at length with these two different contractors and really drove that home and explained the grant deliverable timeline and explained the entire process. And so they were, I think, 2 out of maybe 7 general contractors that I interviewed. And that was the thing for me. It was really about, did they get the point of social equity? Did they want to do work that matters? Because it had to be such a personal thing. It couldn't just be like, hey, we got this grant, you want to do that. It had to be someone that knew our story, what we're doing, and then really looked at the whole thing with me. I showed him all the age of the houses, which is just fascinating. I mean, most of those houses, 28% were built before 1942, and then the rest before 1970. So I mean, there's only a small percentage of modern houses in the Whitaker. So anyway, yeah, very dedicated, excited contractors, that we have a lot of working stuff in place. And that was why, this grant was so hard to write, because it was just imagining this very, how this would all work way in advance. But thank you. I'm hoping that they stay passionate about the project and loyal to us. So. Okay. And yeah, Thea, it's going to be great if you have any time to volunteer. You were so gracious in helping me figure out kind of the rubrics and the application process for housing as healthcare. So maybe I'd love it if you could help me do that again, or just kind of be an advisory as we go. And then of course the whole committee here can weigh in, but it's going to be a lot of work ahead of us in terms of how we create absolute equity with the applications. We'll have money to hire a new person to kind of manage that data tracking. And there'll be, a lot of sensitive work ahead. I hope that the new hire will be the person that would go to the homeowner's location or renter's location with the contractor and do their own assessment about what the homeowner needs to prepare for the work. And again, that's that point of, okay, well, we've got blackberries we have to clear. They're disabled and they can't lift all this stuff. So we need a team to move everything off this first floor. And then also to kind of collect special needs within the house. Hey, we've got someone that's an autistic, very sensitive to sound. And so we'll be tracking before we get in to do work, what the needs are on those personal levels, as well as then the contractors will do the work of it. So, but yeah, it's going to be a big shift to make sure we have everything in place so that we do this completely straight across the board. And I'm finalizing the legal parts now, which are like revisions to the work plans, and then a lot of data that then we should have our grant agreement ready. It's due on August 16th. So I would say that funding may come in a couple weeks after that, once we execute the grant. So we should be up and ready to start in, I'd say, the end of September. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just thinking, I can't believe I'm actually gonna be worried about landlords, but if there's a situation in which someone wants to do a repair, doesn't have the funds as a landlord, but maybe has a bad tenant, could look at a clause of just not raising the rent more than 3% period, but that would allow them to, if they have to remove a tenant, that as long as they just don't increase the prices, because, you know, and it also may not come to that. The program may be so popular that it wouldn't, you could entirely fill it with people who wouldn't necessarily be not want to participate because they would have to keep the same tenant. But I could see,
Interesting.
or if someone moves because they're a student or something, or if they're, you know, some other, like, yeah, that it's tied to the rental unit as a neighborhood commodity if there is turnover for a different reason or something.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. I mean, Thea and I found with the housing is healthcare thing that we had so many landlords that just did not want to play ball. They just wouldn't even want to talk to me. And it was horrible because we found that most of every rental in the entire city of Eugene is owned by 3 real estate companies or property management companies. And so it was this just utter chaos sometimes, just trying to get them to accept the money to keep the tenant in the house. And so my hope, though, is that the Whitaker, I just hope that, like Travis was saying, that this may be more of a space for homeowners that are struggling to keep their homes to just get all the necessary things they need to keep it going. And so, but yeah, incredible point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Thea.
Is there an education component for the tenants to maintain the repair? My example is I have to educate my tenants on mold. It is the person who lives in the home's responsibility to keep it mold free. They have to get it mold free, but then God bless, we live in Oregon and you have to keep your house mold free. So if they make the repairs for the mold, is there going to be a component for education or to maintain the windows? When I put new windows in my rental units, they have to be washed with non-alcohol, non-vinegar components. You have to use a certain kind of cleaner or it takes the warranty away. So I provide that cleaner for my tenants the first time through and then say, this is what you use on the windows. You may not use Windex on your windows. No, ammonia based, not vinegar, ammonia based. So is there a component for that in your grant for educating the people that are receiving the repairs?
You know
And
what?
if not, can it be added?
That's brilliant. And yeah, it is in there. I think we've got several $1,000s for the development of that very thing. And that would be essential. So the same way, for instance, our graphic artist person is developing the little card that's going to go on the solar, cell phone charger. We should do that. We should have every category will have the aftercare, and that'll just be paperwork that's formally handed to the landlord or the tenant. So brilliant. Thank you.
I'm the tale of the person who did not clean their free heat pump until 2 days ago after having it for 4 years, and it had working, and it was gross, and I have a weird cough now. So yeah, I think highly visual, because they handed me some packet that I'm sure told me that I'm supposed to pay $200 a year to clean it, that I did not read. But having some kind of agreement with that, and or potentially, like, at least with the heat pumps, depending on the term of the grant, maybe include a first year service.
Yeah, that is a great thing. I think I'm pulling up my budget right now. I think I actually did that. Like, there was a let's see, there was a warranty time frame. Let's see, I'm trying to find it.
You're brilliant. I bet you included it already.
Yeah, here it is. Materials. We have $6,000 for materials and supplies for follow-up maintenance and equipment. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, we've got that. We've got quite a lot of money in that part of the budget. So yeah, that's a great idea. We can get real granular with that once I get this work plan back to them, submitted, and then, you know, one of our next meetings, I'll come to us here with lists of what each project group would do, and then I would just love that. Please keep throwing the ideas. That's fabulous. Okay. Maintenance manuals. little manuals for all. Okay, great. Let me see. Somebody else had a hand up. Travis.
Yeah, about the heat pump, it's interesting. I actually had my first heat pump ever installed, and that was about 2 years ago. And I called them in the last week or so to ask them if they would come out and do a maintenance on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Well, why?" I said, "Well, I'm just worried. I'm worried that, I just want to make sure that I'm maintaining it, for longevity."
Right.
And the guy said, the weird thing about these heat pumps is that they are totally contained units. And the only thing that generally, unless something drastic breaks, the only thing there is for maintenance is those internal filters.
Yes.
So you have to pull that filter out and clean it. And that's all the maintenance there is, with one other caveat being the outside main unit that has that kind of almost radiator screen, big radiator screen that kind of sucks in the air.
Right.
He said you just run a hose directly down that to knock the dust off that accumulates on those radiators. But that kind of blew me away, that he basically said you don't need to have maintenance on those units except for the inside screen. Crazy.
Yeah, super high energy efficient, and energy bills are going to go down with this kind of technology. They're just fabulous. They've had them all over Europe for forever. I can't believe it took us this long to pick it up and start using it. So
the condensation lines can clog.
Okay, by experience. Okay.
So you're doing heat pumps or ductless heat?
We're doing, these are going to be, let me read this to you guys. Oh, okay. Let me get
one and the same, right? The ductless and the
it is.
split,
Yeah,
it's like a mini split.
It's a mini split. Yes. Yeah, I was trying to find the manufacturer name.
So many names for these things. Yeah.
Yeah, because the ductless ones, I know I pay for maintenance once a year, and I have them come in and clean out the units inside and out. And then once a month, the homeowner is to clean out the filters. That's it. I say, when you pay your rent or you pay your mortgage payment, you clean your filters. That's how you remember.
Oh, very nice.
I have one more thing for everybody before we close when you're all done.
Sure. And if there's any questions, I mean, I'll have a whole bunch more for everyone next month. We just got this notification. So I think Travis and Elliot both had hands up.
Sorry, no, that was residual.
Okay.
Yeah. Quick question. So with this grant came an allocation for rent for a location. have we thought about where we would want to rent and what kind of location we would like to rent as an organization?
Yes, they awarded for, let's see, I've got in here, they approved 500 a month for 36 months. So it's not much, but if we get notification at the end of August, the other grant, the big OREM grant, that had much more money in it for rent. And we really need, in my opinion, I mean, we have the great storage now. Thank you, Elliot. That's a great thing. But I'm concerned that we'll be trying to get maximum value with the grant money and buy the 30 mini splits at one time type of thing, and then have them in storage. So I expect that we are going to really need to expand our capacity. So there's a building that just is coming up for rent on 7 on the Taco Boer side at Blair and 7th. It's got those old rocks and stuff. Yeah, we need a space. We really, really need a big space. And we could, if we just got one little office, that wouldn't really be enough because we need room to spread out all this contracting stuff. We need a home base. We need desks for workers. Yeah, such a good question, Elliot.
Okay, I thought we were getting more allocated, but that's the other grant. I was gonna say there's a place on Van Buren.
Oh,
That's 2,000 a month that has warehouse and office and everything.
ooh,
That's ideal. Yeah.
that is
It's
ideal.
right by Melly Construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in just a mere, let's see, 15 days, we'll know about that other big grant. And I think I've budgeted, remember it was outlandish. It was like $52,000 I put in.
It's 60,000. So I was like, okay.
Right. So
That was it.
we'll get that the big warehouse if we get that. If not, we're going to be limited to 500 a month with this one. So it's just like an exciting kind of game of waiting. So Thea, it looks like yours is up.
So I'm going to recommend that you talk to Nikos and Jamie from Ninkasi, the brown house across from the parking lot on Second. It's not pretty, but it's very functional. I talked to him once about doing a pop-up art gallery in there for local artists in the neighborhood. They use the upstairs as storage right now, and they occasionally house a guest that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
But they have 2 or 3 bedrooms upstairs. Downstairs, there's a bedroom, a kitchen, a huge living area, has a nice front porch. It has created some issues in that it's vacant. I think they would be willing to rent it for you. You know, yeah, it's going to take some elbow grease and paint, but it could be a nice meeting space and office space. So just a possibility, and probably rent it within your budget. So,
You know, I was so excited that might be an option, but I just asked Margaret again today, and I think that the word was no. They
and you need me to ask.
maybe, yeah.
That was the vibe.
Sorry, I'm gonna
Margaret
be-
asked in June.
I'm going to be blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do, Thea. That would be great.
Would you like me to
Honestly,
ask?
You're a miracle worker, so go for
Yeah.
it.
Anytime you ask the city or whatever, it tends to happen. So yes, please ask. That's fine.
Would you like me to ask, guys?
I don't see why not. You know, I don't know why they said no. Maybe getting more clarity around it, or maybe it was just the week we asked that something was going on business wise that
Could be.
They've had a lot of issues with the individuals living out front and employees getting hurt of late. They've had some rough times of late. And so they're pretty exhausted. So I'm happy to reach out to them and say, hey, we're really trying to make this. Can you do this for, how long do you want? A year just to see, or
You
all
know,
3 years?
do you want to wait until we get the decision on the other grants, like 15 days? And if that doesn't go through, then we definitely need some community support and some subsidized grant. Yeah.
Great idea, Elliot. Yeah, let's wait until August, the end of August, and then we know for sure. Because yeah, that grant is also a 36 months. So we're looking at, 3 years where we just want to be stable. We do not want to be evicted or have to move because somebody sells it or, and all those things do happen. But these are some huge grants we're taking on. Plus, I'm still juggling the admin of the other 4 grants. So if we just need space and comm and storage and so I just don't know what that looks like yet, but we'll find it. We'll get it. And then no more grants, please.
Mini storage also has huge spaces, like GoPuff runs out of there and there's like a tile place, but they have, I think that they have a 40 by 40 for $500 a month or something.
Wow.
And that's climate controlled. And so and they don't, with the really big ones, it's not like a nice office space,
Yeah.
But they don't care if you work out of them, and so if there's.
That's interesting. Okay.
So just if the other one doesn't come through and you need to store 40 mini splits.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you. I mean, ideally, it would be nice if we had a front-facing place where people could walk in with their applications and we could really, talk with people. It would be so nice if we had a real dedicated office like that. But you're right. Either way.
That are kind of like they're outside of the lot that are so that might be.
Okay. Thank you.
Another possible spot, Doriandra, is between Backyard Farter and the Beauty Supply. So the city owns that building.
Oh,
I talked to Whitaker about what we wanted there. We encouraged them to have all the services that were in Whitaker to have it as a water cooler office for people. So everyone who was providing services had an office space. But Whitebird has been in it, using it. I don't know if anybody's there. Travis may know, his hand is up. But we could go to them and say, because right now they're trashing it. They're using the outside as a storage area. It's not good, and say, you know what, you need to provide the space to us because you've done all these stepsister things and now it's time to give back a little.
I would love.
And it is office space. So Travis might be able to speak to that.
The only thing I wanted to add is that when I spoke to Eugene Beauty Supply last week, she's been in there for like 30 years. She said that she knows the owner and that it is not the city. The city is leasing that space.
Okay.
According to Sally's Beauty, or not Sally's, Eugene Beauty Supply. So we can double check that.
That would be great. Guys, if anybody, that would be great to know. We need a good landlord. Okay, well, folks, that's it for my kind of stuff. I guess now we could, Elliot, you want to take the floor back and we'll just talk about any other general ideas?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just so shook by just how when we call 911, nobody comes, nobody answers the call. Like cahoots where they won't come to safety calls when it's kind of within that mental health wheelhouse where it's just somebody acting odd that just needs to be talked down. Do we as a neighborhood need to do something, form like a private security force, form like our own Whitaker Rapid Response, source funding from local businesses? Because if the answer is, oh, we'll just have to pay more taxes to get more resources, we could just form our own force and say, hey, businesses, you could either fund your own organization where you get to be on the board and get to talk and have your voice heard, or we could advocate for more tax funding. Somebody within 5 minutes can come and be kind of the neighborhood bouncer and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you throwing our trash everywhere? What's going on? Can you leave? Like having a firm voice where it's like, I'm not in the headspace to go talk to this person yelling at me and throwing trash out my dumpster. Who do I call? The police? No, that's a bit excessive. Cahoots? Oh, they're not coming. What's like the third tier? Somebody just coming over and say, hey, don't throw our trash everywhere. Something like that. What do you guys think? I kind of want to have a discussion about it. So I'll open the floor. I'll let Jen go first.
So I think fortunately there is going to be more services that will address comorbidities of mental illness and drug use and things. The problem is that like if we don't have 5150 or mandatory commitment laws here. And so the only way that a person who is in crisis gets adjudicated to services is through the courts if they are beyond. And I think that as far as, neighborhood interventions, I personally believe that building a positive community space, we're trying out here at the market and stuff like that, is the way to create more positive interactions and things like that. But we're also a draw, for that kind of behavior. And while we try to make a space where people can get a drink of water and sit and listen to music and feel engaged in their community, regardless of their income or housing status or, mental health status, I don't know that, anything like the Red Hats downtown is really going to do anything more than basically end up throwing people into the criminal justice system. And what happens then is that those calls end up taking priority over citizen calls. And so I don't want to shoot down the idea, but I think like having a community space, like if the Whitaker Community Council can get an office that can be a home base for the citizens in this neighborhood that are willing to go out and create that community and provide intervention services on a basis as we are able to, like, that's going to be a really important step. But I don't know that, because there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go, and there's no services, and there's no, I know that there's been issues with like, breakfast brigade in the parks and things like that, but I firmly believe that like the issue is not feeding people. The issue is that there's nowhere for, people to go, and that there's no way to intervene with people who are highly problematic outside of the courts. And then even the courts, like, so sorry, just to talk about what happened with Charles. Charles got arrested for pulling a knife on someone on like Thursday. They did not press charges. He was back out on Sunday. He was highly agitated. I tried to call Cahoots. They did not come. I then tried to call the police when he grabbed one of our info booth assistants. They did not come. He ended up grabbing and assaulting another woman in Red Barn or near Red Barn. And then finally Officer Clark came down and dealt with it, and he got arrested. And it was a whole mess, and everyone was really traumatized, and the whole thing sucked. But it's the only way that he's going to be put into an institution where he's going to be given medication and treated for the physical ailments for a couple weeks, and then he's going to be released back out with no support services again. And so that's what happens. Sorry, that and Rand.
No, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think that that's just the neighborhood we're in. It's walkable, there's resources, we have a literal concrete roof over a park that goes for multiple blocks. You're out of the sun, you're in the shade, you're out of the rain. It's one of the best locations. And also, yeah, when you do call and you have issues, it's so, I don't know, it's so difficult. Julie, what do you think?
So, wow, Jen, I'm really sorry that happened. That sounded really awful. I guess I was looking more at just the strict legal mechanics of making something like that happen in terms of liability. What if one of our volunteers is injured And what if an individual causing a problem is injured? We actually kind of do that on our street. My husband feels pretty empowered to go out and speak with people who are behaving poorly. And so far it's gone well, but it makes me real nervous. And I'm not convinced that it's a good plan all the time. And certainly not everyone wants to do that or feels able to do that. So I love the idea of keeping it local because I don't think the police do a good job. But other than there literally being nowhere to go and no ability to detain people or compel them, other than asking them and trying to de-escalate, I guess I worry about liability. That's all.
Definitely. Liability is there. I mean, I remember Den, he was talking to me about when the WCC ran parking lots on Second for businesses and how he would have to go and confront people camping in the parking lot or doing bad things in the parking lot, and how he felt unsafe and just the liability of him as a volunteer going and like interacting with people and putting himself out there. It's definitely an issue, and you do take liability if WCC endorsed that. Yeah, or funded it in any way, or yeah. What do you think, Thea?
So I have a new line I've been using the last 2 to 3 weeks. It's kind of worked so far. I'm knocking on wood. It's, you're not being a good neighbor. You need to stop that. You're not being a good neighbor. You're not welcome if you're not a good neighbor. And that has been working. And I've been using it with people who are in a mentally unstable crisis. We have someone who's been ripping out plants out of the neighborhood, and she's reappropriating them. And I just let her know that she wasn't being a good neighbor and she wasn't welcome and she had to move on. And I told her to I always end with have a good evening. I had some drug dealers out here that were yelling and chopping bikes in front of my house, in front of the kids' playground 3 weeks ago. And I went out and I was watering and I said, you are not being a good neighbor. This behavior is not welcomed in this neighborhood. And she looked at me and I said, you are yelling. There's a children's playground right here. We live right here. Be a good neighbor. They lived there all weekend. They were quiet the rest of the time they were there. So that's something I've been using. I've talked about the red hats with Skinner because I'm like, you guys aren't doing your job. And the red hats sometimes escalate downtown and sometimes they don't do anything. And I've talked with businesses downtown. So there's a hit and miss on the red hats as to whether they do well. And then I would like to give a shout out to Officer Clark, because Officer Clark has chosen to help one of our individuals that's been in our neighborhood for I don't know how many years now, by trying to help get senior and disabled services to work with this person to find a house in the Whitaker, because he knows this person will not leave the Whitaker. This is where this person considers home, and to get him on his meds. So Officer Clark often goes above and beyond. And then we also have some new officers that are going above and beyond. A few weeks ago, I had a family that had come from Coos Bay. They had 4 shopping carts, a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I called Cahoots. Cahoots wouldn't come. And then there was a man out there with a machete. So I'm like, well, we got a machete waving around with these kids. I don't know if they're related or not related. EPD came out. EPD found that the family had come from Coos Bay. They were trying to get to Roseburg. There was nowhere to stay because they had a dog. EPD used their own funds. They have a private fund, and they put these people up in a hotel for 3 or 4 nights, and they figured out how to get all their belongings to their family in Roseburg and get them to Roseburg. We don't hear those stories about EPD. We only hear they're too hard. And we have some hard asses out there. We do have some hard ass cops. Just like you have bad teachers, you have bad cops. But we also have the good teachers, we have the good cops. So as a neighborhood, like Julie says, her husband goes out. We have people in the neighborhood that go out, but we're all exhausted. We all have compassion fatigue. Block stewards would be amazing, Julie.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because there are individuals in the community that feel comfortable like you do saying, hey, you're not being a good neighbor, while there's people that would never leave their house, even if somebody was right outside screaming at the window, you know? So
I don't
having,
feel comfortable. I'm just done with it. I'm
Yeah,
exhausted and I'm done with it this year.
exactly, yeah. You've hit that breaking point where it's like, I have to do something. Yeah. Travis, what do you think?
Well, I think just from my lifetime's perspective in the Whitaker of the houseless population, that the houseless population has changed. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being the drugs have changed. It used to be that a lot of the houseless in our neighborhood were some of them were mentally ill people from the mission that were dropped off there by the van load by the state hospital, and they'd walk up and down Blair and generally harmless, just various mentally ill conditions. And then there were a lot of ex-vets living by the river, collecting bottles and cans, minding their own business, and keeping their scenes tidy. Gone are those days. There are still down on your luck, decent, good houseless neighbors. There are a lot of them living all over, especially the Blair neighborhood in their vans. They keep their scenes tidy. They don't engage in hostilities with the neighbors that are paying rent and taxes to live there. But I think one thing that especially WCC hasn't spoken up enough about is a very large population of agitated, drug-induced, houseless populations of folks that are not from the Whitaker. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. They're not our neighbors. They're people that literally are being encouraged into our neighborhood from sweeping into our neighborhood, coming from out of state. And they congregate in groups. They are family units, or sometimes they're gangs, groups of hostile folks that don't want to be held to any standard of, they don't want to be held accountable. So we need to be able to differentiate between the groups that want to be neighbors and contribute, and people that legitimately are choosing the lifestyle to live in the park and not be good, decent citizens. So I guess that was kind of not really your point, but I would encourage a neighborhood watch.
Yeah, Travis, this is what I heard is basically we need to start cracking down and disallowing antisocial behavior where it's just like completely not neighborly, just disruptive. Like it's not the Venn diagram of houselessness and disruptive behavior. It's not a full overlap. Like there's people that live on our streets that are part of our community that just can't afford the rent, and we get that. And yeah, we either had to encourage, like if you want to live in this neighborhood, you have to live in this neighborhood and be a part of the community, whether you're in a house or not. If you want to just come in and wreck everything, you're not welcome, and the community won't stand for it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken to just straight up, I have no qualms. At this point, if I drive by Washington Jefferson and there's a group of 10 people passing around various smoking utensils, whether it's tin foil and a straw or a crack pipe, I tell them to get that shit out of our park. I yell it out, get that shit out of our park. Because the bottom line is, there is no reasoning with that. There is no compassioning them into behaving in a way that would encourage children to play in the park. I grew up right where all those folks are, in that park, in that part of the park, picnicking, throwing the frisbee, kicking the soccer ball. You can't do that when there's groups of 5, 10, 15 folks hanging out all day long, all night long, smoking drugs in our park.
Doriander, I think you had your hand up. I'm gonna let you have the last word on this. Okay, all right, Thea, I'll let you have the last word. We're running out of time.
Andrea, are you saying something?
No, I was just, we're
My,
so.
okay, my request was going to be that I am hearing on the news from the city, from EPD, Whitaker is not reporting. We are not reporting incidents. And I would like to ask that the Health and Safety Committee encourage the WCC to put out one of their monthly flyers that back in May, Travis and I presented on how to report concerns. And it's on the website. But if we did a mailer with the actual websites of where to report things, so some people can stick it on their refrigerator or provide a magnet, because the city and EPD and everybody is going on to online reporting. That's the way people can report concerns. And the city has offered to help us make sure our links are correct. Sorry, kind of pisses me off. They should be doing this, not us. But if we could, I'd like to encourage the Health and Safety Committee to ask WCC to use some of the city funds to put out a mailer with how to report again. And we put the links, and it's a magnet for the walls so that people can know. Okay?
Sounds good. Yeah, we do get a budget for mailers and promotion and communication. So that'll be an action from this meeting, is to go to the WCC board, bring that recommendation and see if we can get a budget, design something like that. And then before we send out the final design, we'll bring it back to this committee. And, or if any concerns that come from that, we'll bring it to this committee and see if we can't resolve it during next meeting.
And the business liaison said he would help go over it to make sure we have all the proper links. Because right now there's 3 different places to report things. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna call this meeting to an end. Thank you all for participating. I'm glad we got more discussions. I really enjoy them. I prefer having discussions about all these issues. So thank you for attending. We will see you hopefully tomorrow for our general meeting. Yeah. See you all there. All right. Thanks, everyone.